So welcome to Franchise Success, the first of our podcasts in this, what will be a terrific series of podcasts, the official podcast of the Franchise Council of Australia. And today I'm joined by a magnificent franchisor in Joe Rossi from Town and Country Pizza and Pasta. So Joe, welcome to Franchise Success.
Thank you for having me, Jay.
It's awesome for you to join us and appreciate taking some time out of your busy schedule. Look, this is a conversation, so hopefully we'll see how it goes. There's no set questions, so everything's on the table. Probably good just to get a kickoff if we can get a sense of Town and Country Pizza and Pasta. I mean, what's the brand all about? What's your sort of size and scale, and where are you currently?
Yeah, we're a Victorian-based franchise. We originate about an hour out of Melbourne. My father, we're family led. My father actually opened the original flagship almost 35 years ago, in 1989, I believe.
Right.
It was a success down that way. He became very popular within the local community. The centre in which it opened was actually Town and Country Shopping World.
Right.
So he went out on a limb and called it Town and Country Pizza.
Wow.
So we've inherited this name that we've got now as a franchise network, and we're currently sitting at 13 franchises. We've just opened our first national location over in WA.
Right, and I'm going to talk about that a bit more with you in a second. Just back to the Town and Country brand. I mean, obviously a lot of brands spend a formidable fortune coming up with their brand, and what you're telling me is that your dad basically took on the name of what the shopping centre that you were going into.
Yeah, it's a bit of an ironic situation, but in this shopping centre, it wasn't his first business at that point, but the one that he needed to open, out of necessity, opened quite quickly, and just chose the name of the centre to run with. And coincidentally, there ended up being Town and Country Dry Cleaners, Town and Country Tats Lotto,
right,
and other businesses along that same pathway, which sometimes works in our favour. We do look like a large conglomerate of random businesses at some points, but no relation. And so we've just run with it. He did he took the old school approach. He was very much in the business day in, day out, did the grind that needed to be done, and won over that community. And because of that, to this day, which we can touch on a bit later as we expand as well, we were able to see an opportunity to franchise. Right. He is still humbled by where we are and where we sit. And
he's still involved in the business?
Absolutely. The product itself is a derivative of my grandmother's recipes. So
wow.
Our sources to this day are not far from what she would cook us and him growing up.
Right.
And
the recipes are locked up in the vault, so to speak?
Absolutely, yeah. We have proprietary everything. If you can get it, we will. But we also hold that very dearly to us. Family for us in business is important. It lets us put the story out there in the right way, and it makes it a little easier to tell people where we've come from and where we are today, and to show that we have a genuine passion for what we do. So.
Right. Interesting.
Having that origin and growing up in the business itself and being able to tell people that story now, it can show through the product, it can show through the customer experience, it shows in all different ways. And so it makes it a little easier, I guess, than some of the concepts that are just born off an idea in a boardroom that let us run with. And obviously pizza and pasta being such a old world cuisine as one of the few that is easy to convince people to try.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
And I must say, in franchising, what I've found a lot is there's sort of this new sort of next generation, second generation, possibly even now becoming third generation, coming through some of the sort of Australian-orientated franchise networks that are out there, not necessarily the big conglomerates that have come from the US and other parts of the world, which is fine. You're obviously second generation?
Second generation in the business, yes. Yeah, my father's second generation here. I'm third as far as our heritage is concerned, but we've been really careful curating our connection with our Italian heritage and how it reflects through to what we do. Right. How we operate as a second generation, and our relationship between him and I is a strong one. It's quite good. he was humbled by the idea of being able to grow outside of his original store.
Right.
And to be honest, was a little reluctant at first. But once he realised, he got enthusiastic about it. And to this day, he's still involved in the operational side of support for franchisees.
Does he walk in with a franchisee and start, kneading the dough or giving some tips? I mean, is he that hands-on?
He does.
Really?
He can... he enjoys it a lot. You see a lot of that passion come through. Our theory is that a lot of the time franchisees come into perhaps a larger organisation and the operations team have been trained and they go through. What better than having the guy that founded the brand come and give you that knowledge firsthand while he still can. At scale, it may not be the same opportunity, but we hope it is. And obviously as he gets a little older, that'll get challenging. For all of us, it will.
Sure.
But it's a great experience for the franchisee to get that direct relationship and understand how we operate. We don't get in each other's way from an operations point of view. We have defined roles.
And that's obviously a key thing, an important thing, right? With these generational scenarios, you know what you're doing and he knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. In our industry, we see a lot of family businesses and they can be run by multiple families that have come together. And I think it's really important that people take the time to try and define that as early as they can. And so we, from the get-go, when we decided to establish ourselves as a franchise network, we outlined how that would look. And I was fortunate that was a scenario that was quite easy to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously you've come into the business, obviously your dad started it, I think you said quite a long time ago. You've obviously done something in between when you've come to the business, from a franchising point of view.
Yeah,
is that your background?
As far as hospitality is concerned, obviously I was born and bred into the industry.
Right.
I spent time in and out of my father's kitchen. I went off to run some other venues for actually Victorian footballers and their partners and so on. I ended up connecting with a partner in the US for an American-based franchise. And so as far as franchising is concerned, that was my large exposure to franchising.
Right.
They were, at the time, I think the third or potentially fastest growing franchise in the US. And so because they were growing so rapidly, I was able to do a deal for Australia and obviously got great insight as to what it looks like to go from a brand that was small and very large very quickly as well. So
awesome.
My time in franchising was generally around that. And otherwise, hotels and restaurants were where I spent my time.
Great background. Who knew that was all going to come together to create this, what is becoming a very successful franchise? Now, tell me, we were talking off camera before just around the expansion. You said to me that you've decided to step out of Victoria and you've drum rolled. You've decided to go to WA. Now, you do realise that's not normal. Yeah. Most people like to try and conquer the East Coast, but those folks in WA, what's the story there? Is there a connection?
Strangely, we didn't end up in Perth. We actually ended up 3 hours out of Perth as well. So we got as far as we possibly could from where we originated from. That being said, the franchisees that actually took on that store worked for one of our locations on the Surf Coast here.
Right.
And the wife of the couple actually is who was the employee at the time, moved over with her husband who's in mining over in WA.
Okay.
And she moved into her local town and realised that there wasn't much food on offer for her to feed her children when her husband was away in 2-week lots, and realised that the local community had very much the same issue. And so she thought that potentially it could be an opportunity for a franchise. We at first were thinking it was too small a town, and then we realised the connection. So it's just outside of Margaret River, a town called Cowarumup, where we're situated. Because of the Margaret River region, though, we were able then to make the economics seem reasonable, and the more we dove into it, the more it seems like a strategically good move to make.
Right.
With plenty of opportunity on the other side of the country. So we
amazing.
We looked to capitalise on that, but for now focused on supporting that franchisee. And the story is amazing. The reception from the locals and the connection, oddly, to our local brand was really surprising to us and very humbling. We had people just coincidentally that had 3 months before been getting their pizza on a Friday night from our flagship, from my father's first store.
Right.
That moved over, and they were able to, and it was just blowing their mind that we just showed up in their hometown.
You were stalking them or something. It must have been amazing.
It was just caught by surprise, and we could only do so much marketing because we felt that entering a smaller town, a smaller community, we definitely didn't want to take a big brand approach. We had to be very careful and curated with how we go into that and show them that we care about them locally first. And that was all very carefully considered, and it worked. And we ended up with people that heard the brand had hit WA and were driving from Perth, doing a 7 hour round trip, and
for a pizza.
It was just it was it couldn't have been a better start to our national expansion.
Right.
Yeah, and still is. They're trading very well.
Well, congratulations. I mean, it's probably not, as I think you alluded to before, this notion of corporate boardrooms and decisions being made by spreadsheets. I mean, clearly a lot of that was gut.
Absolutely. There's a lot of that, and a lot. Sometimes it gets discarded, a bit of a gut feel approach to strategy. We have a mixed bag of that, of course.
Right.
You've got to take the sensible approach sometimes as well.
Right.
But it doesn't go overlooked in our world.
Yeah, right.
We think it has a key part of it. And getting on the ground, we're still fortunate that our size allows us to be very much involved on the ground and making that decision, not just from the demographics and the data,
right,
but in addition to.
Yeah, right. And what about the supply chain? I mean, I'd imagine, you've got a Victorian hub and base, and you've got some proprietary stuff, and here you go and decide to open the first sort of non-Victorian in Margaret River in WA. So how did you deal with the supply chain? Given you're in a food business, was there challenges there? Or?
We're fortunate that our work here in Victoria, in the way that we've grown and been able to scale and the size we've come to, we are not pursuing a store count for the sake of getting store count. So we prefer to have high volume locations and less of them if it need be. So by having high volume locations, we were able to put ourselves in a category that meant we were already using national products. And so a lot of the key ingredients to what we do were able to be sourced quite quickly from the distributors over there. And we were able to, through our supply chain here, I guess, mirror what we're doing. And we've been fortunate so far. We haven't had any huge hiccups.
Right.
And we've been able to sustain our product in almost identical manner. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And look, it's a great message to share with the franchise community, because I'm sure there's lots of franchises out there that are perhaps in the same sort of boat you're in. They might be single state, thinking about what to do next. And it sounds like you've overcome many of the hurdles, which is terrific.
For now, I'm sure with more store count and more scale, there comes the problems that we face with that. But we welcome them, of course. Right. That's what we're in the business of doing.
You're probably not going to open your next one in Toowoomba or Townsville.
Strangely, we've had plenty of inquiry.
Is that right?
And look, to be honest, by doing the hardest way, this is our theory. If we do the expansion the hardest way possible, which usually is determined by where it's located, and we can overcome that, and we have in this instance, it does make the rest of the country seem easy to do. So, and especially on the East Coast, anywhere up that side. So, yeah, we probably won't be, but if we are, then we're very much comfortable to take it on. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, here at Franchise Success with the FCA, of course, we love to talk a little politics. And this one's being recorded as a result of the Prime Minister just recently calling the election. And by the time people might be watching this, we might even know who the Prime Minister is, whether it's the guy that's in or the other guy. But rather than getting into a political conversation with you, I was just keen to get a feel from you about the regulatory environment that Australia sits in, having just recently come back from the States and visiting with other colleagues around the world. I mean, we are the most regulated franchise industry in the world. As an operator and someone expanding, how are you finding the regulatory environment? Is it hurdles? Do you like the barriers to entry? What's your general thoughts about the things you've got to do?
I have some thoughts on this. I was fortunate to be exposed to the fast-growing American network that I was part of a little while back. And so by not having the friction, it enabled the scale to happen a little faster. And sometimes that's a good thing for what is a new concept that consumers are driving the results from. So perhaps not having a barrier or less barriers can lend itself to allowing a new idea, a new franchise concept establish itself, like a startup in the tech world would do. The flip side to that is it also sorts out people that are independents or groups perhaps that are looking to break through into franchising but really shouldn't. Perhaps the regulations are good to have as a barrier because it then stops them from entering into a world that perhaps doesn't help them grow. It actually hinders them because of the regulation and the cost involved of setting up and getting the structure. And then lastly, because of that, there may be less players as a result of the barriers of entry into franchising because of the regulation. And if there's less players, then there's less opportunities for people to get involved in a franchise network. Right. And therefore, they try to go and do it on their own. And in our world, and I can only speak to our world as far as our industry, independents are falling over very quickly because they don't have the insight or perhaps the exposure to what's happening at a higher level that is going to influence them politically or not. And then you've got just the day-to-day operations that they need. And by having less franchise oars in the industry means that people are trying it on their own and therefore they're not getting the support. Our Western Australia store is a very good example of that. We were just big enough by being able to break through into franchising and be able to sustain ourselves in franchising and be what we need to be. But if we were an independent, there's no way we could have the team, the structure, the supply chain, all the benefits of that offers.
Of the network.
And so it's a long-winded answer. The regulation can hinder opportunity in a lot of different ways. And I think the only time that it actually helps is perhaps stopping some people that shouldn't be in franchising from getting in. Right.
I think one of the things that certainly I'm coming to realise is that the structure of the regulation perhaps has sort of run its course. And so certainly there's some conversation about rearranging the regulation without necessarily removing it, because what you've just said is often said to me that while it's not seen as a barrier, it allows to ensure that perhaps the bad actors can be dealt with accordingly. So it's interesting to hear your perspective on that, of someone that's in expansion mode and having to deal with your disclosure documents and all the other legal requirements.
Absolutely. And if the bigger, looking a little historically, when people have done the wrong thing or perhaps perceived to be what's been perceived to be the wrong thing, it trickles down to potentially that franchise that has just got on board and is trying to do everything right. And then because of that impact, it stops them from moving on, or it just forces them to exit franchising altogether. It's very, very challenging to get to a critical mass, be it store count or just volume in general, to be able to accommodate to all the costs involved. Just the costs alone are enough of a pressure that can break the back of a particular franchise. We're fortunate we've broken through those barriers now and we're here to stay. But those that aren't, I feel for them, and they have a new concept which I think should grow, and franchising is the best model for, especially in our industry. They're few and far between. It's already having a hard time for independents. Why not give the franchises that have that new concept the ability to grow and give the people that want to be on board with that concept a frictionless experience. They expect it of us in our stores when they come to get their food and deliveries, but it should be able to be scaled up to whatever necessary needs to have.
Able to do. No, look, it's really good points, Joe, and we really want to thank you for coming and joining us here at Franchise Success. It's a new experience for me as we start to do a few more of these, and I get to meet lots more people face to face like this. So thank you very much for sharing your time with us and your story with us, Joe. We wish you all the success with Town and Country Pizza and Pasta as you go forward, and of course, if you end up deciding to open one in some godforsaking part of the rest of the world, it would make sense to be in far north Queensland, your next one. Just a suggestion, but what would I know? Do let us know.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for coming and joining us.
Thanks so much for having us, Jay. I really appreciate getting the opportunity. Thank you.
So look, that's a wrap for Franchise Success for this podcast. So remember to subscribe, like and share, and I look forward to seeing you all soon on our next Franchise Success.